Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collarwood for YouTube. I'm here to talk Friday the 13th. I'm here to talk Crystal Lake Town and Crystal Lake, the campgrounds. More specifically, the people and how they differ. So, let's start at the campgrounds first, because that's where the festivities, if you will, take place for the most part, especially, and I am going movie to movie here. So I'm starting with the original. The biggest question you have to ask before you get into the breakdown of the people is, does Jason Voorhees actually drown? I'm not shitting you. um, okay, according to script, yes, Jason drowns, but let's have some fun with this. Does Jason actually drown? Because in today's standards, would Jason be considered a drowning victim, or would he just be a member of the missing 411? Um, Now, I've always presumed that Jason was a special needs child. Saying that, I go, okay, does that mean Jason went to the water? It could have. Um, and I don't mean to offend anybody by saying this, but when you hear about kids with autism who go missing, they generally find them near a body of water. Um, with Jason, I can't sit here and say Jason had autism. I don't know. Um, I will say that this story, as a fictionalized character, I've always raised an eyebrow, not in a bad way, but in a way of, okay, because a lot of people compare Friday the 13th and Halloween. Well, Friday the 13th was made off the success of Halloween. Sure, there's that. But there are differences in the storytelling here. And by that I mean you don't need a witness to prove Michael Myers murdered his sister Judith Margaret Myers. Um, you know, with Jason, I would have loved an actual witness to his goddamn drowning because that would have made sense. And by the story you get told, Pamela says they weren't paying any attention to him. And then I go, well, you were the cook, were you? We don't know. I'm going to say that one of a couple things happened. And I'm going to give some shout outs as I go along. First of all, shout out to Butch Rosenbaum, my buddy Butch Rosenbaum. He brought this up. And very great point, by the way. There are many definitions to the word drowning. Okay. If Jason went into Crystal Lake and drowned, one of a couple things happened. Either A, he literally did drown, somebody actually saw him at some point in the attempt of, him not being able to swim, dove in, saved him, at least got him out of the water. He wasn't breathing, and they performed CPR, meaning he did drown and die, but he was resuscitated back to life. Or B, he did just honestly drown and nobody saved his ass. Those are the two options. Now, I'd love to get into the other option that he didn't, because I more wager on that than he actually went into the water. But again, that's my opinion. I can't prove that happened. I can't prove the other things happened either. So this is all a fictionalized thing. It's just funny. It's a lot of fun to talk about a fictional slasher, right? So Jason drowns. The following year in the 50s, two camp counselors are murdered. You might say a full year later. Now keep in mind, the murders and events that take place post Jason's drowning take place on Jason Voorhees' birthday, which happens to be, you guessed it, Friday the 13th. So every Friday the 13th, when it's Jason's birthday, his mother, Pamela Voorhees, R.I.P., goes on a killing spree. Or not always, we'll say, because if she went on a killing spree every Friday the 13th, there would be more than 2 bodies, which leads me to this. Is Camp Crystal Lake, sorry, jinxed, or does it honestly have a death curse, or both? I would love to say that 2 people constitutes a death curse. Here's the issue with that. It doesn't. And you might say, well, a death curse means anybody who goes there is going to die. You're right. And here's my problem with that. Everybody who went there didn't die until until 1980. Yes, you had 2 initial murders. But the death curse really doesn't really, to me, kick in full effect. You could say there's somewhat full effect until 1980, which all those other Kevin Bacon's character got killed. So is there a jinx or is there a death curse? Now, the reason I don't lean toward Crazy Ralph's narrative at first isn't because he's crazy. Ralph is not crazy. Ralph is somewhat correct in this. There will be a death curse. There are people who are going to get slaughtered like lambs for sure and get killed. Whoever goes up there is going to get killed. That's more prevalent to me post the 2 camp counselors getting murdered in 1980 and the sequels. That's where the death curse really kicks into effect in the Camp Crystal Lake area, because the other camps that you see are on the same lake. Now I'm going to ask and answer some questions, and I hope you'll play along with this as well. So, the reason I lean towards Jinx, the truck driver that takes Annie up to the crossroads, he tells her to quit, and he says, Christie tell you anything? Your boss, Steve Christie? Which Steve Christie is the son of his mom, obviously his mom and dad, the 2 owners, the Christies, who opened Camp Crystal Lake. So what became the question? There are a lot of questions here, and I'll get into the Christies here in a minute. He tells Annie that a boy drowned. He doesn't mention the boy's name. In fact, we don't hear the name Jason until after we actually see the face of one Pamela Voorhees, played by the late great Betsy Palmer. That being said, you hear that after a boy drowned, there were 2 young camp counselors were murdered. They did find the bodies, obviously. The water was bad. A bunch of fires, and nobody knows who did any of them. And what he's implying is that one person or persons is doing all of this, that something's going on up there, and they're not sure exactly what, and they don't really want to go up there and find out either. It has them a bit spooked. This would imply jinx. Now, I've talked about how the 2 camp counselors were murdered. I'm going to get into that. So what became of the Christie family? And this is where I'll get into them. Did the Christies go crazy and broke? Broke, maybe. Crazy, not so much. I wouldn't say they dare went crazy. Here's what I think happened. When the 2 camp counselors were murdered, and I want to give another shout out. Huge shout out to my buddy Mark Gilman, if he's watching this. Mark Gilman made the point that all the other campgrounds you see in 2, 3, 4, and I think Packneck as well, are on the lake. They're at least, especially the 2, 3, and 4. And I do think not Packneck. What's the one I'm thinking about in 5? The mental hospital. I think that is either near the lake or just off of it. Was every campground owned by the Christies? I would say the first 4, yes. Because this would explain how they went broke. And what I mean by that is, so when those 2 camp counselors were murdered, fictionally, a wrongful death lawsuit would have been filed against the Christie family by the parents of the two teens who got killed, the camp counselors, if you will. Either I would say they settled out of court because a wrongful death lawsuit is a civil suit. They would have settled for a lot of money. Where would the Christies have gotten all that money? Well, they would have sold those other campgrounds and kept one, the main one we see in the first one. Again, I'm just fictionally trying to make sense of this, this stuff. I love Friday the 13th to pieces. So I'm not doing this to assassinate the franchise. I'm doing this because I generally love the franchise and have fun with it. Uh, so I think the Christies sold the campgrounds you see in 2, 3, and 4 at right at 1979, going into 1980, and they gave the first campground to their son. They're like, "Here, we want nothing to do with this anymore. We can't lose any more money. The money we have is all. We'll give you the campgrounds. We'll give you, you know, what money we do have left. We're getting out of the campground business. If you want to stay in it, that's fine. That's your decision." Because Steve Christie was old enough by this time to make his own decisions, and he did, unfortunately. And Steve Christie got killed by Pamela. Crazy times, right? So, do I think Jason drowned? Yes, I think the first option, that he went into the water as he was drowning. Somebody saw him, they dove in, they pulled him out, they gave him CPR. In Pamela's mind, she always lost her son either way because Pamela was one crazy bitch. Okay, let's simplify things. Pamela Voorhees is out of her fucking mind. Okay, I mean you're doing shit on your son's birthday that is either A, gonna harm, is either gonna kill somebody or severely hurt them. You are a wackadoodle, as my wife likes to say. I'm gonna borrow one of her words. So Pamela is a wackadoodle, extreme wackadoodle. That too. Love the character, great character. So I've talked about the campgrounds and stuff. Does Steve Christie believe in the curse? No. No, Steve Christie does not. Steve Christie doesn't want Crazy Ralph coming up and spreading all that nonsense. He feels whatever has just happened is either just somebody's, pure happenstance, is what he chalks it up to, or it's just somebody who, the murders were somebody who went nuts. They don't know who. Which leads me to what I think happened, which was the Christies probably letting every member of the campgrounds go. Keep in mind, your first hint to who that the killer is somebody you can trust. When the camp counselors are murdered, the first two, the one boy says, "Oh, we weren't doing anything honest." He wasn't. He didn't look like he was afraid for his life. He looked like he was afraid to lose his job, meaning the person who caught him had a lot of pull or power with the Christies, and it was somebody of authority, being Pamela. Because again, Pamela was the cook of the campgrounds. At least I think she was. I could be wrong. Um, that being said, when I've already answered, when does the death curse really get into 1980, when all those from Annie to the other camp counselors murdered, right at that point in time, Crystal Lake has officially a death curse on it, from a fictionalized sense, and then the sequels just follow that death curse to a T. I answered Jason's drowning. Do the townspeople go up there? No, other than Crazy Ralph, and we know what happens to him in part two. He gets killed, unfortunately. Other than Crazy Ralph, the townspeople, that and the exception of the law, they try to avoid Crystal Lake as much as possible because they don't want to go up there. They may not believe in a death curse, but they damn sure believe it's a jinx. There's something going on. Uh, by by part two, the law wants everybody to stay away from the lake and off of it, which is why uh, the the young man who has the great reputation, I forget his name. The law says, "Look, you got a great reputation. Go somewhere else. You're too close." That campground is on the opposite side of Crystal Lake, of where the other campground was, where the murders took place, which is why the lawman says he's too close. The killer is Jason and Sackmash Jason. And there's a lot of death. Again, the death curse is real in the sequels. Jenny survives. Baby in tow? Question mark. Is Jenny pregnant? There's some foreshadowing about that. I think she is actually, in my opinion. Um, in part three, same thing. The death curse is in full tact. At some point in time, the Christies sold that land to the one girl's parents, and unfortunately, well, nothing good ever came of that for them either. Um, I think they were aware of the legend of Jason, and the because really that's what Crystal Lake is really known for prior to the murders. It's the legend of Jason itself. Jason drowned. Or did he? That's a question mark everybody seems to have post the sequels. Post the original. And it's one that spreads with rapid fire. But people, instead of embracing the truth that Jason is alive and well, make up a bit of a legendary tale to scare their teenagers. Oh, Jason will get you if you go in the lake. You're definitely going to hear this in sequels such as Jason Takes Manhattan. So they use Jason sort of like a boogeyman. Jason does copy Michael to a degree. But he's more of a legend to me than Michael, because how the fuck do you prove a legend is real? How do you fight that legend? You don't. Because people are just going to make fun of you. Oh yeah, that's an old legend around here. Hey, what about all those missing bodies? Oh, those are just missing people. That shit. Now, there are people who confirm murders happen in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, mostly, I would say 4 and 6. But the thing about, and 5 too. But the thing about 6 is it's become camp for a screen, and they choose to not really mention Jason. At least the police don't. But everybody is aware of the legend of Jason. The camp counselors who go there. I'd rather deal with old Jason. No, you really fucking wouldn't. Than kids, which is just a funny line. I do wonder how serious they take the legend at times in Jason Lives, because some of the girls are like, oh, it's just some of them are, it's just a legend. But then you get Cork, who says, what if it's that guy Jason? What if he's out there? So some people do legitimately believe in the legend of Jason Voorhees. And that's really where the legend sticks. Crystal Lake, whether Death Curse or not, it's especially pre-original, Jason is the constant legend. Did he drown? We don't know. But somebody came back with a vengeance, and that somebody was Jason to avenge his mother's death. So the legend is Jason apparently drowned, but somehow survived and went on a killing spree after his mother's beheading. It's one crazy, cool, fun legend for sure, and it's one of my favorite ones as a franchise. I love Michael Myers to pieces, but even Michael's legend is not this perplexed and big. Michael is very simple, and maybe I'll do a retrospective of him. It's simple. A man murders a young boy murders his sister at 6 years old. Is he pure evil? Is the question mark. But with Friday the 13th, I ponder these questions to you. What are your thoughts on Jason's drowning? your thoughts on Crazy Ralph's death curse and your thoughts on, is it a jinx or is it both? Um, I don't think there's a sense in covering Jason 7. I like the movie. Jason Takes Manhattan's a lot of fun. He's at the bottom of. And by the way, in Jason Takes Manhattan and in Jason 7, there are people who believe in the legend of Jason. So they use it as sometimes a joke or to get laid. And some people take it even more seriously. Some people don't take it seriously. So that's where that lies. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day.